It is claimed that the Mount of Olives is fracturing, splitting into two halves from east to west, thereby creating a vast valley. This phenomenon offers tangible proof that significant earthquakes have occurred here previously, cleaving the bedrock. The Mount of Olives is showing cracks, and the world is observing this unfold. Recent geological assessments confirm an undeniable east-west fissure developing along the Jordan Rift Valley fault line. This direction aligns precisely with the prophecy in Zechariah 14:4, which foretells the splitting of the Mount of Olives upon the Messiah's return. Is this merely a geological event? Or are we witnessing the initial stages of a prophetic fulfillment forewarned by the Bible as preceding Christ's return? Before we proceed, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future developments. Let's begin. This ridge is situated just east of Jerusalem, offering a vantage point over the ancient city, the Temple Mount, and the Eastern Gate. For millennia, it has remained a silent observer of covenants, divine judgments, acts of mercy, and promises. Kings traversed it, prophets mourned upon it, and Jesus Christ himself chose this mountain for pivotal moments of his earthly ministry. It was on the Mount of Olives that Jesus frequently sought solitude for prayer. Here he wept over Jerusalem, foreseeing its rejection and ultimate destruction. It was also here that he delivered what is now known as the Olivet Discourse, his most detailed prophecy concerning the end times, encompassing earthquakes, fear, deception, and global upheaval. And it was from this very mountain that he ascended to heaven, raising his hands in benediction as his disciples watched him vanish into the clouds. Subsequently, an extraordinary event transpired. According to Acts 1:11, angels appeared and delivered a message that was neither metaphorical nor vague. This same Jesus, who has been taken from you into heaven, will come back in the same way you have seen him go. This implies not only the manner of his return, but also, implicitly, the precise location. A visible, physical return tied to this specific site. Centuries prior, the prophet Zechariah had already provided an even more specific account, that when the Lord returns, his feet will rest upon the Mount of Olives, and the mountain will divide into two parts, running from east to west. This specificity renders the Mount of Olives irreplaceable by any other location. Prophecy does not refer to a nation generally or a city metaphorically, but to a defined mountain with a precise orientation. Scripture explicitly connects Christ's return to this specific geography. For generations, many assumed this language to be figurative. How could an entire mountain literally split in half? Yet now, in our contemporary era, the ground beneath this very mountain is no longer stable. In recent years, scientists and geologists monitoring eastern Jerusalem have begun to detect subtle but undeniable alterations in the terrain surrounding the Mount of Olives. Hairline fissures have appeared along pathways and slopes. Minor fractures have gradually widened, not solely due to surface erosion, but from subterranean pressure. Instruments now confirm movement within the subsurface rock layers, following a precise and concerning pattern. The Mount of Olives rests directly above the Dead Sea Transform Fault, one of the most seismically active fault systems in the Middle East. This fault extends north to south through the region, but stress does not dissipate uniformly. Geophysical data indicate that pressure beneath Jerusalem has been accumulating for decades. The last significant earthquake to affect the city occurred in 1927. Experts openly acknowledge that the region is overdue for another major seismic event. What distinguishes the Mount of Olives, however, is not merely that it is moving, but the distinctive manner of its movement. Satellite imagery and ground sensors reveal a directional stress beneath the mountain, trending from east to west. This is highly atypical. Most natural fractures follow existing fault lines or erosion patterns. However, here, the tension appears to be forming a horizontal line of weakness across the ridge itself, as if the mountain is being pulled apart internally rather than simply shaken. Geologists describe this process in technical terms: tectonic pressure, microslippage, rock fatigue. Yet, even within scientific circles, there is growing apprehension regarding the location and timing of these events. The Mount of Olives is not an unpopulated desert ridge. It is one of the most extensively studied and symbolically significant sites on Earth. Every millimeter of movement here carries profound implications. Some attempt to dismiss these cracks as harmless surface wear caused by pedestrian traffic, rainfall, or natural aging. However, this explanation does not withstand scrutiny. Similar terrain across Jerusalem does not exhibit the same fracture behavior. The changes are localized, concentrated, and focused. The mountain that ancient scripture singled out millennia ago is now displaying physical signs of stress. Science, of course, does not employ the language of prophecy. It only asks what is happening, not why now. But history demonstrates that when natural processes align with ancient warnings, the question of meaning becomes unavoidable. The Mount of Olives is no longer static. It is responding to unseen, unheard, and largely unexplained forces. If the ground is beginning to shift at the precise location Scripture foretold, then the subsequent question is no longer geological. It is prophetic. Remain with us, for what ancient prophecy reveals about this movement is even more disquieting than the cracks themselves. In recent months, another disturbing phenomenon has begun to manifest on the Mount of Olives, one unrelated to visible cracks, yet seemingly intrinsically linked to the subterranean activity. Late at night, residents on the eastern slopes have reported hearing low-frequency vibrations emanating from underground. These are not earthquakes, nor are they a result of construction. The sound has been described as a deep, pulsing hum, steady, rhythmic, and unsettlingly slow. Some have likened it to distant thunder trapped beneath stone, while others noted that it felt more like pressure than sound, vibrating through the body rather than the air. What makes this event particularly disconcerting is that seismic instruments have failed to register corresponding surface tremors. There are no measurable quakes, no detectable blasts. Yet, multiple sensors have recorded subtle oscillations beneath the mountain, appearing and disappearing without warning. In several instances, these vibrations coincided with slight expansions in existing fissures, suggesting the mountain was responding to an internal pulse. Witnesses have reported another chilling detail. During these episodes, the air above certain sections of the Mount of Olives felt unusually dense. Electronic devices experienced brief interference, and compass readings fluctuated. Even trained surveyors noted momentary disorientation, as if spatial reference itself had shifted. Geologists offered cautious explanations: possible underground resonance, pressure redistribution, natural harmonic vibration. Yet none could fully account for why the phenomenon remained localized almost exclusively to the Mount of Olives, ignoring adjacent terrain with similar geological composition. Ancient sites across the mountain, including burial chambers and stone pathways, appeared structurally unaffected. Nevertheless, something beneath them was clearly active, not collapsing, not exploding, but pulsing. The mountain was not breaking, it was responding. And the most troubling question, now murmured among researchers, is this: if the Mount of Olives is reacting to forces we cannot yet identify, what happens when that response reaches its limit? Before any cracks appeared in the ground, before any instruments detected subsurface pressure, Jesus himself stood on the Mount of Olives and issued a warning. This was not a casual teaching. It was deliberate, urgent, and deeply connected to the place where he spoke. From this mountain overlooking Jerusalem, Jesus delivered what is known as the Olivet Discourse, recorded in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. It remains the most detailed description of the final period preceding his return. The setting is crucial. Jesus did not choose the temple courts or a synagogue for these pronouncements. He chose the Mount of Olives, the very ground Scripture states will move when he returns. As he spoke, Jesus described a world entering a state of convergence, not a single sign, but many. Wars and rumors of wars, nations opposing nations, earthquakes in diverse locations, fear gripping humanity, hearts failing from terror at what is impending upon the world. He likened these occurrences to birth pains, initially slight, then escalating in frequency and intensity. This comparison is critical. Birth pains do not occur once. They accelerate, they overlap, and they signal the imminent arrival of something inevitable. Jesus cautioned his listeners not to be misled by isolated explanations. He stated that the end would not arrive at the first sign, but when signs begin to appear concurrently, earth, sea, sky, and human society would all experience strain simultaneously. Creation itself would mirror the events transpiring in the unseen realm. What is often overlooked is how closely Jesus' words echo earlier prophecy. Zechariah spoke of a mountain splitting. Jesus spoke of the earth shaking. Luke recorded Jesus saying there would be signs, not only on the earth, but in the heavens, and distress among nations as the sea and waves roar. This is not random imagery. It is layered consistency. If this connection resonates with you, please share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and remain with us. Because what lies beneath this mountain may reveal what lies ahead for the world. While surface cracks attract public attention, some of the most unsettling developments linked to the Mount of Olives are occurring not above ground, but beneath it. In recent years, advanced ground-penetrating scans and subsurface surveys conducted in eastern Jerusalem have uncovered anomalies that defy simple explanation. These are not natural grottos sculpted by the elements, nor standard archaeological areas documented ages ago. They are sealed chambers meticulously crafted, profoundly embedded within the mountain's bedrock, a mountain already steeped in prophetic significance. Among the most contested discoveries are ancient stone tables, displaying inscriptions reminiscent of early versions of the Ten Commandments. These are not ornamental engravings or symbolic fragments. The script bears a resemblance to Paleo-Hebrew forms, predating many known temple period inscriptions, and etched deeply into stone with deliberate precision. Academics advise against hasty judgments. Nevertheless, even prudent voices concede that the engravings reflect covenant terminology, law, submission, and divine power. This is where the enigma intensifies. Sacred texts frequently connect the covenant the law, and God's physical manifestation, with holy artifacts concealed, removed, or sequestered until a future epoch. The Ark of the Covenant itself is depicted as vanishing from history, not obliterated, but withheld. Biblical verses imply it would not remain hidden indefinitely, but would reappear in conjunction with judgment, renewal, and the ultimate realization of God's scheme. The Mount of Olives enters this narrative not as a repository, but as a demarcation, a juncture between what is hidden and what is unveiled. The mountain surveys the Temple Mount, the Eastern Gate, and the Kidron Valley. It lies between burial sites and royal routes. It is a place of transformation, both spiritually and physically. If inscriptions linked to the Ten Commandments are emerging beneath this mountain, the symbolism is undeniable. Law before sovereignty, covenant before homecoming, accountability before re-establishment. What troubles many observers is not merely what is being unearthed, but why now? Why do sealed rooms, ancient engravings, and covenant signs begin to surface at a time when the mountain itself exhibits signs of unrest? Why do discoveries related to divine law surface as the terrain associated with divine return begins to alter? The Bible frequently portrays revelation as gradual, concealed until the designated moment when the time approaches. What was interred is exhumed, and what was sealed is exposed. If the Mount of Olives is starting to disclose what it has hidden for centuries, then the activity beneath its stone may not be fortuitous. It may be preparatory, and preparation, in biblical terms, invariably precedes arrival. The earth does not stir in isolation. The heavens do not speak exclusively. Portents coalesce.